Hello me chums, hope you're all well. I've got something a little different for you today, not just my hands. I wanted to show you the rigs that I've been using on the videos, because my rigs tend to all be the same. I tend to keep them quite simple, but I know what each rig does and why I would use it, which is going to come apparent when I show you these things. So on most of the videos that you've seen at the moment, I've been using kind of scratching rigs, one up, one down, sometimes two up. Sometimes the clip down rig, which I'll show you on another video. But for this one, I'm just going to briefly show you the rigs that I use for most of my beach fishing. So they look quite similar, but they're not. But we'll get to that. So I'm just going to put them down here. So we've got three main rigs that I use quite a lot. Let's make sure I'm getting you the right ones. There we go. Right, put that on one side. So three main rigs that I use quite a lot. Now, conditions always dictate what type of rigs I'm going to use. The fish that I'm targeting always dictate the rigs that I'm going to use. There's quite a few factors. The bait I'm using sometimes, maybe a different hook pattern. But for the purpose of this, these rigs are made for fishing worm and fish baits, basically. Not crab baits, not any big baits, smallish baits. So we will start off with this one. So this one, I always have a 3-foot body. 3-foot body, and I adjust the snood lengths accordingly for conditions. So this one, if you'll notice, if I can get in shot properly, it's got a 12-inch snood on this one. Now the main purpose of this rig would be where there's very little tide. If I'm using it in the river, let's say there's very little tide, I would use a short snood to try and catch those fish quickly on the bite. Same as the beach, if there's very little tide movement, I can get away with a short snood. Now there is another side to this as well. If the sea's quite heavy as well, there is a benefit of using a short snood. And what I would do is I would use a short snood. That's hard to say, isn't it? A short snood. But I would up the breaking strain of the line to make it a little bit stiffer, so that would avoid tangles when it's in the surf. If that makes sense. But this one, purpose of this one, this is a clean beach rig. Very little tide, very little surf. And this is for targeting flounders, turbot. It'll take bass. It'll catch anything. This rig, it'll do you all the way around. The only differences that you would make in the rigs are the dimensions, which I'm going to show you. So I'll just unravel this one if I can, just to show you how I set them up. Because they are simple rigs, but I do like to use a few little gadgets on them, which I find helps. Let's get these off. I'm hoping everything's in shot for you guys, because I can't see the screen. Right, so start of the rig, I have a 100-pound swivel on the top end, crimped between two small beads. I always use glass. As you'll notice, my rigs are all see-through. It's a bit of a thing for me. I don't know if it makes a huge difference. I have had occasions where I've fished two different rigs, a clear body and a coloured body, and the coloured body has caught, and and the clear rig has caught when the coloured hasn't. So from then on, forthwith I started using clear, and I've stuck to it ever since. So this is the short one, so if I can untangle it for you. So the whole body is 3 foot. You've got your trap bead, got a smaller swivel there, which is still a 60-pound breaking strain. And what I like to do, so I've got a small snood on here. This is an 18-inch snood. Actually, it's 12, isn't it, on this one? I do have an 18. Yeah, this is the 12, sorry. This is the 12-inch snood that I use. So basically, 12-inch line. This is 20 pounds, which covers most situations, river or the beach when it's fairly calm. There's enough stiffness in it to keep it away from the rig body, but also enough subtleness that it'll move around. But that's where this comes into play. So if you've noticed on some of your videos, I've got floating beads on my rigs, and that sits well behind the bait. Now the reason for this is this float isn't heavy enough to lift a bait off the bottom. It won't, unless you're using a very small hook, probably a size 8 with a tiny little sliver of mackerel or something on it. It would lift it a little bit, but this is purely for movement and attraction. Below that, I use my stopper. So that's just basically a bait stop that slides. Quite tough, these ones. I may get into depth with this stuff more later on, but for now, it's a bait stop. So that's, if I'm using worm, I can put my worm up the line, push the bait stop down. It'll keep everything nice and tidy on the bottom, and around about 3-4 inches behind I have the floating bead, which will give that snood a little bit of movement. It's a little trick, and it does work, believe me, it really does work. Hooks, I'm not going to say who these are by because I'm not having anything to do with them, and I don't believe in advertising unless I'm getting something out of it. I think it's only fair. So hooks, size 2. I like quite a wide gape on my hooks. I mean, it's not massive, but it's quite a wide gape, wider than normal. And what I sometimes do if I'm fishing for flounder is I'll nip the barb down, take the barb off completely. You don't really need it, and it just aids unhooking as well, and it's a bit healthier for the fish. So you've got this one, nice little size, get a good little bait on. If I'm putting mackerel on, I'll probably get about three small cubes on there on that one. So that's that. Basically the bottom's exactly the same, but going down to the bottom of the rig, I use a little barrel with a clip link on. Reason being, I use a lot of plain leads, and I do like it to roll around on the bottom. This eliminates kinks in your line and stops everything getting fastened up. So that's that one. Now that one's the 12-inch. Is it? Am I right? Yeah. So that's the 12-inch snood one. That's used when it's very calm and there's hardly any tide run. So I'll wrap these up later. Save time. I'll put that to one side. Probably regret that later because it'll be in a big pile. Next one I use it's the same rig, but it's got an 18-inch snood on it. This is kind of a mediocre one where I want a little bit of movement. I know it sounds a bit faffy, but I do think that rigs make a huge difference to your fishing. So basically it's exactly the same as that. Same setup, stops, floating bead, size 2 hook, and the only difference on this one is it's not for a rolling. I don't really use it for a rolling lead. It might be for a grip lead, so I've just got another clip on the bottom. Again, if you're in the know, you'll know which company makes these, but again, I'm not advertising anything for free. I'm sorry, I don't get my gear for free, so that's the way I look at it anyway. So that one is for when there's a little bit of tide, but I might want to grip it down as well, so it doesn't really have to have the rolling bottom on. I hope that makes sense to you. Just a slight variation on that, but it makes a difference. Again, I stick to 20-pound snood on that because I want a balance between movement and the stiffness of the snood off the body to stop tangles, which there's no point putting baits out and then it's all tangled up. You think you're fishing when you're not. So that's the next one. Now this one's for when the sea's rough. I wouldn't use this one in the river. You could if you wanted to, but when the sea's rough, this is the one I'll use. It's a 4-foot body. Snoods are 2 foot, so there's plenty of movement on there. So if there's a lot of tide running, you're going to get lots of movement. But I use 25-pound snoods on these, a little bit thicker. I mean, some guys do use 30 and 40-pound on their snoods when they're beach fishing. You can do that if you want. Absolutely you can. I just like a little bit of movement, you know. It just brings the fish on. A little bit of movement. That coupled the fact that a tiny bit of buoyancy on the rig to get some movement going is key, especially when you're flounder fishing. Flounder, turbot, plaice. I mean, plaice you could bling it up a bit if you want, but again, I do have hooks. In fact, I'm going to show you actually. I do have rigs. Just take one off here. I do have rigs where I use. You've probably seen these on the video as well. These are a bit more blingy. Now, I have experimented with these rigs against these rigs, and there's very little difference. In fact, sometimes these rigs outfish the more blingy ones. It's just one of those things where it's trial and error. You have to test things out. But on this one, as I say, the premise is heavier snood line, because there's nothing worse than fishing on the beach and getting constant tangles. It's detrimental to your time on the beach, and you're not fishing correctly. Your bait's not fishing correctly. It's in a ball. You still catch fish. I mean, I've done that myself. You know, you bring it in a right mess and there's a fish on the end. You know, I think one of my previous videos that showed I had weed on top hook. It was all in a big bundle, and then there was a fish on the bottom. But basically, in the main, these rigs are my go-to rigs. You can catch whiting. You can catch anything on them, to be honest. You can codling. I've had codling on these rigs well over £2, no problem. Hooks have handled it, no problem. If I was to suggest one rig that you should be tying up and keep it in your box, it's this. One up, one down. Classic rig. Another little tip, if you're fishing on a storm beach and there's quite a bit of surf on, I would go 2 up rather than 1 up, 1 down. It just reduces a lot of tangles. Go 2 up and increase your snood poundage to 25, 30 pound, possibly even 40 if it was a really rough sea if you're fishing for bass or cod. My 2 hook rigs for cod are pretty much the same. And also on these variants, you can add cascades, and you can make like the loop rig, which is another one which I'll show you at another time. Again, this was just a quick video just to show you what it is that I'm using. If you want to know where I get any of the components from, you can private message me, but please don't do it on YouTube. You private message me on Facebook at the Northeast Angling Facebook page, and I'll put you on to what you need. But unfortunately I'm not advertising on YouTube, but I will tell you though privately. The other thing, I mean, that's that for the rigs for now. I will start doing these more regular if it's something that you want, something you're interested in. But the other thing is, I have had a lot of friend requests via Facebook. Now, please don't think I'm rude if I don't add you to my personal Facebook account. It is just that is my personal account for kind of family and things, you know. So if you do want to get in touch with us and speak to us on a regular basis, just pop across to the Facebook page at Northeast Angling on Facebook there, and just drop us a message there, and I'll pick it up straight away. If there's anything that you want to know, or if you want to just keep informed of what's going on. But again, I'm not being rude. It's just Facebook is my personal account's just for my family and things, you know. So I'm sure you understand anyway. But thank you very much for watching. I hope that's given you a little insight into the rigs that I do use. If these are useful, or if you'd want us to do some rig tying videos or show you hooks and any other little tips, just drop it in the comments and we'll sort something out. But thanks very much for watching and subscribing. I really do appreciate it, and have a fantastic day. Take care and tight lines.